Why was everyone staring at her like she didn't belong? The gun range at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado went quiet. Not the comfortable quiet of morning calm, but the sharp, sudden silence that comes when someone walks into a place they shouldn't be. 5 Navy SEALs stood watching. Their eyes tracked her movement like predators sizing up prey, like men who'd seen 1,000 hopefuls break under pressure and were already writing her off as number 1001. She was compact, maybe 5'3" in boots, jet black hair pulled into a tight ponytail that hadn't moved since she walked through that door, eyes like winter steel, the kind that cut through excuses and pretense and bullshit, tactical pants, black shirt, and something else, something in the way she moved, a stillness that made dangerous men take notice even when they didn't want to. Master Chief Derek Morrison stepped forward. 47 years old, face like a roadmap of 2 decades at war, every line earned, every scar paid for. He'd watched 1,000 hopefuls fail SEAL training, watched them quit, watched them break, watched them realize that wanting something and being capable of it are 2 very different things. This one wouldn't last 5 minutes. He was sure of it. "You lost, sweetheart." His voice carried the kind of authority that's earned through blood, not given through rank. Girl Scout camps about 50 miles south. The woman met his stare with those steel blue eyes. Something flickered there. Something that made Morrison's instincts whisper warnings he chose to ignore. Years of combat had taught him to read people, to see the truth beneath the surface. But sometimes you see what you expect to see instead of what's actually there. "My name is Emma Kincaid," she said quietly. Her voice carried perfectly in the concrete space, no strain, no hesitation. "I'm here to join your team." Behind Morrison, one of the SEALs laughed, sharp and dismissive. Tyler Hawk Patterson, nicknamed for his sniper skills, shook his head like he just heard the funniest joke of his life. "This is a joke, right, Chief? Tell me this is a joke." Morrison reached out, pulled the M4A1 rifle from Emma's hands. The weapon looked oversized in his grip, a deliberate show of dominance, the kind of move designed to make someone feel small and out of place. "This ain't a tourist shooting range," he said. "This is where warriors train. You want to play soldier. There's a theme park in Orlando." Emma didn't reach for the rifle. Instead, she unbuttoned her thigh holster's retention strap and rested her hand on the Sig Sauer P226 riding there. Casual, comfortable, like it belonged. "1 minute," she said. "1 minute to do what?" Patterson's voice dripped contempt. "Cry. To prove you wrong." The range went silent again. Morrison studied her face, searching for the crack. The moment when reality would sink in and she'd back down. He'd seen it countless times. Civilians who thought they could hang with the best until they actually had to step up. Until the gap between imagination and reality became too wide to ignore. But Emma Kincaid's eyes never wavered. "Here's the deal," she said. "You and 4 of your men, sidearms only, simunition rounds, first blood wins. You drop me, I leave and never come back. I drop all 5 of you, I'm on the team." Morrison felt his jaw tighten. The audacity was almost impressive. Almost. But audacity without capability is just noise, and he'd heard plenty of noise in his career. "You want to go 1 versus 5 against Navy SEALs?" "I want 63 seconds," Emma said. "That's all I need." Something in the way she said that number, 63, made Morrison pause. Not 60, not a minute. 63 seconds, that specific, that precise, like it meant something more than just time. 63 seconds, Patterson stepped closer. "Why that specific number, Chief?" Marcus Crowley moved up beside him, explosive specialist, built like a tank with a brain that could calculate blast radius in his head. "If she wants to embarrass herself, let her. 5 minutes from now, she'll be crying in the parking lot." Morrison looked back at Emma. Really looked at her. "You understand what you're asking. We don't pull punches, we don't go easy, this isn't a game." "I know what this is," Emma said. "Do we have a deal?" Morrison handed the M4 to Crowley and drew his own SIG P-226. Around him, 4 more SEALs moved into position, checking weapons, exchanging glances that said this would be over in seconds, that said this woman had no idea what she was walking into. "Your funeral," Morrison said. But even as he said it, something nagged at him, something in those eyes, something familiar. The range master called out the rules. Standard killhouse scenario. Simunition rounds non-lethal, but they'd hurt like hell. The space was 100 feet long, filled with walls and doorways and cover points designed to simulate urban combat. First team to score 5 hits wins. Emma holstered her weapon and walked to the starting position. Her movements were economical, efficient, no wasted motion. Morrison noticed but pushed the observation aside. Efficient didn't mean capable, discipline didn't mean deadly. 63 seconds, the range master said, setting his timer. On your mark. The buzzer sounded. Emma moved. Not like a civilian, not like a weekend warrior who learned to shoot at a range on Saturdays and thought that made them combat ready. She moved like smoke, like water, like something that belonged in the spaces between thoughts. The first SEAL came around a corner hard and fast, weapon up, using the aggressive angles they taught in close quarters battle. But Emma was already gone. She'd anticipated his angle, read his momentum, and was behind him before his brain registered the threat. 2 shots, center mass, double tap. He went down with blue paint spreading across his chest. 4 seconds elapsed. Morrison came next, cutting through a doorway with 2 decades of war guiding his movements. Every footfall deliberate, every angle covered. But Emma wasn't where she should have been. She'd used a footwork pattern he'd only seen once before, a gliding sidestep that seemed to violate physics, putting her exactly where she needed to be. Her weapon came up. 3 shots, 2 to the chest, 1 to the head. The Mozambique drill executed with textbook precision, the kind of precision that doesn't come from reading manuals or watching videos, but from thousands of hours of muscle memory burned into neural pathways until thinking and doing become the same thing. Morrison looked down at the paint, marking his body armor. Felt something cold settle in his gut. 12 seconds. Patterson tried to flank her, moving silent and low. He was the best shooter on the team, a sniper who could put a round through a keyhole at 1,000 yards. But in close quarters, speed mattered more than precision. Emma rolled, actually rolled like something from a movie, and came up shooting. Patterson took 2 rounds before he could acquire his target. 19 seconds. The last 2 SEALs tried to coordinate, coming at her from both sides in a pincer movement that should have been impossible to counter. But Emma had already mapped the space, already calculated the angles. She used the doorframe as cover, drawing fire from one side while engaging the other. The rhythm of her shooting was hypnotic. Breathe, aim, fire. Breathe, aim, fire. No hesitation, no wasted rounds. The 4th SEAL went down at 38 seconds. The 5th tried to charge her, thinking he could close the distance and overwhelm her with size and strength. But Emma sidestepped, that same impossible gliding movement, and put 3 rounds in his back as he stumbled past. The buzzer sounded. The range master stared at his timer, then looked up at the observation window where a dozen instructors had gathered to watch. 63.0 seconds, he said. Exactly. Morrison stood slowly, wiping blue paint from his chest. Around him, his team was doing the same. In every face, he saw the same expression, shock giving way to something else, something like respect. That footwork, he said quietly, the way you moved, I've only seen one person move like that. Emma holstered her weapon. Her hands were steady, not even a tremor. Captain Jackson Kincaid, United States Navy SEAL, also known as Ghost. She paused, and for the first time, Morrison saw emotion flicker across her face. My father. The name hit like a physical blow. Ghost Kincaid. Morrison had served with Ghost in Ramadi back in 2006, when the city was a meat grinder and every street corner could be your last. Ghost had saved his life twice, once pulling him from a burning Humvee, once dragging him to cover when an IED turned the world into fire and shrapnel. Ghost Kincaid, who'd set an impossible record in this very range in 1999, clearing 5 targets in 63 seconds using footwork nobody could replicate. Ghost Kincaid, who died in Syria in 2014, 10 years ago, executing some classified mission that would never see the light of day. Jesus Christ, Morrison breathed, "You're Ghost's daughter." Emma nodded once, precise as a rifle shot. The moment hung there, suspended in the cordite smell and the weight of memory. Then Morrison stepped forward and extended his hand. "Your father was the finest operator I ever knew. He saved my life. I owe him everything." Emma took his hand. Her grip was firm. "Then help me," she said. "Help me find out who killed him." What do you say when someone tells you the man you thought died a hero was actually murdered? The silence that followed was absolute. Patterson was the first to break it. "What are you talking about? Ghost died in Syria, combat casualty, classified op." "That's what the official report says," Emma replied. Her voice steady, but underneath, Morrison could hear it now, the grief she'd been carrying, the weight she'd learned to hide. "But it's not the truth." Morrison felt the world shift beneath his feet. 10 years he'd believed the story. 10 years he'd honored Ghost's memory as a warrior who fell in combat. And now this woman, Ghost's daughter, was telling him it was all a lie. "Emma," he said carefully, "that's a serious accusation. You're saying the Navy." "I'm saying someone wanted my father dead. Someone with enough power to make it look like combat. Someone who's still out there." She pulled a manila folder from her tactical bag, set it on the range table. Morrison opened it, and what he saw made his blood run cold. Photographs, documents, financial records, communications intercepts. "Operation Sandstorm," Emma said. "My father was investigating it when he died. Arms deals, weapons being sold to enemy combatants through shell companies, American guns ending up in the hands of the people killing American soldiers." Crowley stepped closer, reading over Morrison's shoulder. This is treason." "This is murder," Emma corrected. "My father found evidence that someone in the chain of command was facilitating the sales. He was going to expose them. 3 days later, he's dead in Syria. Mission goes wrong. No witnesses. No body recovered for 2 weeks." Morrison's hands shook as he turned pages. He'd known Ghost, knew how that man operated. Ghost didn't make mistakes, didn't walk into ambushes, didn't die in missions that went wrong. "Who else knows about this?" Patterson asked. "Right now, just you. And Commander Marcus Hayes, Naval Intelligence. He's been helping me build the case." "Why us?" Crowley's voice was quiet. "Why bring this to a bunch of SEALs instead of taking it up the chain?" Emma met his eyes. "Because I don't know who to trust in the chain. Because whoever killed my father has power, has connections, has the ability to make problems disappear." She gestured to Morrison. "But I know my father trusted you. He talked about you in his letters, about Ramadi, about how you had his back when everything went to hell." Morrison remembered those days, the chaos, the fear, the brotherhood forged in fire. "What do you need from us?" he asked. "I need a team, people who can't be bought, who won't back down when the pressure comes, who will help me find the truth no matter where it leads." Patterson laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You're asking us to go to war with our own command structure." "I'm asking you to honor my father's memory, to finish what he started." The room went quiet again. Morrison looked at his team, saw the same conflict on every face, the same war between duty to the chain of command and duty to a brother who'd bled beside them. "Show me everything," he said finally. Every piece of evidence, every lead. If Ghost was murdered, if someone in our ranks betrayed us, then we owe it to him to make it right. Emma opened her bag and pulled out more files, spread them across the table like a map of conspiracy. It starts with Triton Defense Corporation, she said, a private military contractor with deep ties to the Department of Defense. They were selling weapons systems to approved buyers, but some of those weapons were ending up in the wrong hands. My father traced the serial numbers, found American rifles being used against American troops in Afghanistan. How's that possible? Crowley asked. There's supposed to be oversight, end-user certificates, tracking. Someone was falsifying the paperwork, making it look like the weapons went to Allied forces when they actually went to arms dealers who sold them to the highest bidder. Morrison studied a photograph, an M4 carbine with a serial number circled in red. Next to it, a manifest showing the weapon had been destroyed in a training accident. Except the weapon wasn't destroyed. It was photographed in the hands of a Taliban fighter in Helmand province. Your father found this. My father found hundreds of these, weapons that were supposed to be destroyed or decommissioned showing up in combat zones. Someone was making millions selling our own guns back to our enemies. Patterson whistled low. That's not just treason, I don't even have words for what that is. My father called it blood money, Emma said. Every weapon sold was American blood on American hands. Morrison felt rage building in his chest, the kind of rage that's cold and focused and dangerous. Who in the chain of command? That's where it gets complicated. My father identified 3 names before he died: Colonel Robert Ashford, Senator David Marshall, and someone he only referred to as the Admiral. Which Admiral? He never specified, but he said the Admiral was the key, the one who could make investigations disappear, who could change reports, who could order a SEAL team into a mission that was designed to fail. The implications settled over them like a shroud. If an admiral was involved, this went all the way to the top, all the way to people who could end careers with a phone call, who could make accusations vanish, who could turn investigators into targets. What happened to Commander Hayes? Morrison asked. You said he was helping you build the case. Emma's jaw tightened. 3 weeks ago, he was found dead in his apartment. Single gunshot wound to the head, ruled a suicide. But you don't believe that. Hayes called me 2 days before he died, said he was close to identifying the Admiral, said he had proof that would bring down the whole network. She paused. The next morning, he's dead. His files are missing, his computer wiped clean. Crowley shook his head. This is bigger than us, Emma. This is CIA, FBI, Justice Department level. I know, and I've tried those channels, filed reports, requested investigations. Every time the case gets buried, every time I'm told there's insufficient evidence or that it's being handled at a higher level. Her voice hardened. So I stopped asking permission. I started building my own case, and I realized I needed operators, people who understand combat, who can move in the shadows, who can't be intimidated. Morrison looked at his team, saw the decision forming on every face. They'd all served with Ghost, all owed him. And if what Emma was saying was true, if someone had murdered one of their own and was getting away with it. We're in, Morrison said, all of us, whatever you need. Emma's eyes shone, but she blinked it back, stayed focused. Then we start with Colonel Ashford. He's retired now, living in Virginia, private security consultant. But my father's files show he was the primary contact between Triton Defense and the Pentagon. He approved the sales, signed the manifests. You want us to pay him a visit. I want us to make him talk, get him on record, build a case that can't be buried. Patterson grinned, and there was something dangerous in it. A retired colonel versus a team of pissed-off SEALs. I like those odds. This isn't about intimidation, Emma said firmly. This is about evidence. about building something that will stand up in court. We do this right or we don't do it at all. Morrison nodded. She was right. Revenge was easy. Justice was hard. When do we start? Tomorrow. Hayes left me one more thing before he died. An address. A meeting place where Ashford supposedly conducts his real business. She pulled out a photograph of a warehouse in Alexandria. We watch him, document his movements, find out who he's meeting with, and when we have enough, we bring it to someone who can't be bought. Who? Crowley asked. If admirals are involved, who's left? Emma smiled, and it was cold as winter. The Senate Intelligence Committee. Senator Patricia Mitchell. She's been trying to investigate defense contractor corruption for years. Give her evidence this solid, evidence this damning, and she'll burn the whole thing down. Morrison looked at the files spread across the table, at the photographs of his friend, at the evidence of a conspiracy that had cost Ghost Kincaid his life. Then let's get to work, he said. But even as he said it, a thought nagged at him. If they were right, if this conspiracy went as high as they suspected, then the moment they started pulling threads, the moment they became a threat, they'd all become targets. And unlike Ghost, they'd see it coming. How do you surveil a man who's trained to spot surveillance? The warehouse in Alexandria sat in an industrial park that had seen better days. Cracked pavement, rusted chain-link fences, the kind of place where people minded their own business because asking questions was bad for your health. Emma watched through binoculars from a van parked 3 blocks away. Morrison sat beside her, monitoring communications. Patterson was on a rooftop 200 yards out, sniper scope trained on the warehouse entrance. Crowley was mobile, circling the perimeter on foot, looking like just another worker on a smoke break. Target arriving, Patterson's voice crackled through the earpiece. Black Mercedes, Virginia plates, 2 occupants. Emma adjusted her binoculars. Colonel Robert Ashford stepped out of the vehicle. 60 years old but carrying himself like a man 20 years younger. Tailored suit, expensive watch, the look of someone who'd traded military honor for civilian wealth. Who's with him? Morrison asked. Can't see the face. Tinted windows, staying in the vehicle. Ashford walked to the warehouse door, knocked twice, waited. The door opened and he disappeared inside. We've got company, Crowley's voice cut in. Second vehicle approaching from the east, white SUV, government plates. Emma's pulse quickened. Government plates meant official business, meant someone in the system was meeting with Ashford, meant they were about to get proof of the connection. Hold position, Morrison ordered. Let's see who gets out. The SUV pulled up beside the Mercedes. The driver's door opened. Emma's breath caught. She knew that face. Admiral Thomas Carver, Deputy Director of Naval Intelligence, a man with 40 years of service and a reputation for being untouchable. Patterson, she said quietly, are you getting this? Every second. High-def video. Audio's going to be tough from this range, but we'll have visual proof of the meeting. Admiral Carver walked to the warehouse door. Same knock, same wait, same disappearance inside. That's our admiral, Morrison said. That's the one Ghost was talking about. Emma felt something cold and hard settle in her chest. Her father had been right. The conspiracy went all the way to naval intelligence, to a man who could access any file, bury any investigation, order any mission. How long do we wait? Crowley asked. As long as it takes, Emma replied. We need to see who else shows up, document every face. They waited. 30 minutes, an hour. Emma's legs cramped from sitting still, but she didn't move, didn't shift position. This was the kind of patience her father had taught her, the kind that separates hunters from prey. At the 90-minute mark, the warehouse door opened. Ashford and Carver emerged together, shook hands, the kind of handshake that seals deals, that confirms agreements. Patterson, tell me you got that, Morrison said. Crystal clear, framed it perfectly. The Admiral returned to his SUV, pulled away. Ashford stood outside the warehouse checking his phone, smiling. "He looks pleased with himself," Emma muttered. "Whatever they agreed on, it went well for him," Morrison agreed. "Crowley, you ready to follow the Admiral?" "Already moving. I've got his route." "Patterson, stay on Ashford. I want to know where he goes next." "Copy." Emma and Morrison packed up the surveillance equipment. They had what they needed: visual proof of the connection, an Admiral meeting with a disgraced colonel in a secret location. It wasn't enough for an indictment, not yet, but it was a start. Back at the safe house they'd rented in D.C., Emma spread the photographs across the table. Morrison uploaded the video to an encrypted drive. Patterson and Crowley arrived an hour later with their reports. "The Admiral went straight back to the Pentagon," Crowley said. "Normal routine, didn't make any other stops." "Ashford went to a restaurant in Georgetown," Patterson added. "Met with someone else. Woman, mid-50s, I didn't recognize her." He pulled out his phone, showed Emma a photograph he'd taken through the restaurant window. Emma's blood went cold. "That's Senator David Marshall's chief of staff, Catherine Reeves." Morrison whistled. "So we've got military, defense contractors, and now political connections." "It's a network," Emma said, "just like my father suspected. They're all connected, all protecting each other." "What's our next move?" Patterson asked. Emma thought about it. They had evidence of a meeting, but meetings weren't crimes. They needed proof of the actual conspiracy, proof of the weapons sales, proof of the money changing hands. "We need Ashford's files," she said. "Whatever he keeps in that warehouse, financial records, communications, something that ties him directly to the weapons sales." "You want to break into the warehouse?" Crowley's eyes widened. "That's illegal search and seizure. Anything we find won't be admissible in court." "I don't need it to be admissible in court," Emma replied. "I need it to convince Senator Mitchell to open an official investigation. Give her enough to work with and she can get subpoenas, warrants, legal access to everything." Morrison studied her face. "You're talking about crossing a line, Emma. We go into that warehouse without authorization, we're committing a felony. If this goes sideways, we don't just lose the case. We lose our careers, our freedom." "I know what I'm asking and I know what it costs." She looked at each of them in turn. "My father crossed that line, died for it. Commander Hayes crossed it, died for it. I'm not asking you to follow me if you're not willing, but I'm going in, with or without you." The room fell silent. Emma saw the conflict on their faces, the weight of the decision. They were all warriors, all trained to follow orders, respect the chain of command, work within the system. But the system had failed. The system had murdered Ghost Kincaid and covered it up, had killed Marcus Hayes and called it suicide, would keep killing anyone who got too close to the truth. Sometimes the system is the enemy. "I'm in," Morrison said quietly. "Ghost saved my life, I owe him this." Patterson nodded, same. Crowley took longer, finally sighed. "Your father was a good man, one of the best I ever served with. If someone killed him for trying to do the right thing—" He met Emma's eyes. "Then it's time someone made them pay." Emma felt gratitude swell in her chest but pushed it down, stayed focused. "We go in tomorrow night. Minimal footprint. In and out in 20 minutes. We photograph everything, take nothing. That way, if they suspect a break-in, there's no evidence we were there." "What about security?" Patterson asked. "I've been watching the warehouse for 3 weeks," Emma said. "Basic alarm system, 2 cameras on the exterior, no guards. Ashford's confident nobody knows about this place." "Confident or stupid?" Crowley asked. "Both, hopefully." They spent the next 12 hours planning. Routes in, routes out, contingencies if things went wrong. Emma felt the old training kick in, the muscle memory her father had drilled into her. Plan for everything, prepare for nothing, execute with precision. The next night they moved. 2 a.m. The warehouse dark and quiet. Emma led the way, bypassing the alarm system with equipment Hayes had left her. The door clicked open and they slipped inside. The space was mostly empty, concrete floor, metal shelving, but in the back behind a false wall they found an office. And in that office they found everything. Files, documents, financial records showing millions of dollars flowing from Triton Defense through shell companies to offshore accounts. Communications between Ashford and the Admiral coordinating shipments. Manifests showing weapons going to approved destinations but actually ending up in war zones. And photographs. Photographs of Senator Marshall at private dinners with Triton Defense executives. Photographs of the Admiral touring Triton facilities. Photographs of cash payments being made in parking lots and hotel rooms. Jesus, Morrison breathed. This is enough to bring down the entire operation. Emma's hands worked fast, photographing every page, every document, every piece of evidence. 20 minutes later, they were gone. The warehouse locked behind them. No trace they'd ever been there. Back at the safe house, Emma uploaded everything to the encrypted drive, backed it up 3 times, sent copies to secure servers in different countries. Now what? Patterson asked. Emma picked up her phone, dialed a number she'd been saving for this moment. Senator Patricia Mitchell answered on the 3rd ring. This is Mitchell. Senator, my name is Emma Kincaid. I'm Captain Jackson Kincaid's daughter, and I have evidence of a conspiracy that's been killing American soldiers for over a decade. There was a pause. I'm listening. Why does the truth always come at a cost? The Senate Intelligence Committee hearing room was designed to intimidate. High ceilings, dark wood paneling, flags of the United States and the individual services hanging like silent witnesses. Emma sat at the witness table, sworn in, facing 15 senators who would decide if her evidence was credible or if she was just another conspiracy theorist wasting their time. Senator Patricia Mitchell sat at the center of the panel, 62 years old, former prosecutor, a woman who'd built her career on asking the questions nobody else wanted to ask. Ms. Kincaid, she began, you've made serious allegations against senior members of our armed forces and defense community. Before we proceed, I want to make sure you understand the gravity of what you're claiming. I understand, Senator. You're alleging that Colonel Robert Ashford, retired, engaged in illegal arms sales, that Admiral Thomas Carver, currently serving as Deputy Director of Naval Intelligence, facilitated these sales, and that Senator David Marshall received payments in exchange for political protection. Is that correct? Yes, Senator. And you're claiming that your father, Captain Jackson Kincaid, was murdered to prevent him from exposing this conspiracy. Emma's throat tightened. Hearing it stated so plainly, so formally, made it real in a way it hadn't been before. Yes, Senator, that's exactly what I'm claiming. Mitchell gestured to the stack of documents on the table in front of her. Documents Emma had provided. Documents that could end careers, send people to prison, destroy lives. Walk me through your evidence. Emma took a breath. In 2013, my father was assigned to investigate irregularities in weapons accountability. He discovered that Triton Defense Corporation, a military contractor, was selling weapons systems to approved international buyers. But those weapons were being diverted, ending up in the hands of enemy combatants. She pulled up a photograph on the screen behind her, an M4 carbine with a serial number highlighted. This weapon was listed as destroyed in a training accident at Fort Bragg in 2012. 6 months later, it was photographed in Afghanistan, being used by a Taliban fighter who killed 2 Marines. The room went silent. My father traced hundreds of these weapons, created a database showing the pattern. Weapons that were supposed to be destroyed, decommissioned, or sent to Allied forces ending up in war zones. Another photograph, a manifest showing approved sales to the Iraqi military. According to official records, these weapons went to Baghdad to arm security forces. But my father discovered they actually went through a shell company in Dubai and ended up being sold to whoever had the money to pay for them. Senator Mitchell leaned forward. And how was this facilitated? Someone in the Pentagon was falsifying the paperwork, approving sales that looked legitimate on paper but were actually going to arms dealers. My father identified Colonel Ashford as the primary facilitator. He was the liaison between Triton Defense and the Department of Defense. He signed the manifests, approved the transfers. That's an allegation. Where's the proof? Emma pulled out financial records. These show payments from Triton Defense to offshore accounts controlled by Colonel Ashford. Over a 10-year period, he received approximately $8 million. The payments correspond directly to major weapons sales. A senator on the right side of the panel spoke up. Senator James Curtis, known for his defense of military leadership. Ms. Kincaid, consulting fees are common for retired officers. How do we know these payments weren't legitimate? Because Ashford was still on active duty when most of these payments were made. He didn't retire until 2016, and the amounts correspond to specific sales that my father flagged as suspicious. Emma clicked to the next slide. More concerning is Admiral Carver's involvement. My father's notes indicate the admiral used his position to bury investigations, to redirect inquiries, to ensure that anyone looking too closely at these sales was reassigned or had their clearances pulled. Again, Senator Curtis interrupted, that's speculation. Do you have proof? I have communications between Ashford and the admiral discussing how to handle my father's investigation. I have evidence of the admiral ordering the deletion of files related to Operation Sandstorm, which was my father's internal code name for the investigation. Mitchell looked at the documents. These communications were illegally obtained, were they not? Emma met her gaze steadily. I can't speak to how they were obtained. I can only speak to what they show. That's a convenient answer. It's an honest one. The questioning went on for hours, Emma walking them through every piece of evidence, every connection, every payment, every weapon that ended up where it shouldn't be. And through it all she felt her father's presence, his training, his voice in her head telling her to stay calm, stay focused, trust the evidence. Finally, Senator Mitchell called for a recess. Emma stepped outside into the hallway. Morrison was waiting. How's it going? He asked. Hard to tell. Mitchell seems sympathetic, but Curtis is pushing back hard, and a few others are clearly skeptical. Think they'll believe you? Doesn't matter if they believe me. Matters if they believe the evidence. Morrison's phone buzzed. He looked at it and his face went pale. What? Emma asked. Patterson just sent this. It's all over the news. He showed her the screen. The headline read, Admiral Carver denies corruption allegations, calls investigation politically motivated witch hunt. Below it, a statement from the Admiral's office claiming Emma Kincaid was a troubled woman with a vendetta against the military for her father's death, that her allegations were baseless, that she'd obtained evidence through illegal means and was trying to destroy the reputations of honorable men. Emma felt rage burn through her. They're getting ahead of it, controlling the narrative before the evidence goes public. We knew they'd fight back, Morrison said. I know, but reading it, she took a breath. Reading someone call my father's murder a tragic combat loss and dismiss my evidence as a vendetta. Emma. Morrison's voice was gentle but firm. Don't let them get in your head. That's what they want. They want you angry, want you to make mistakes. He was right. Emma knew he was right. But knowing it and feeling it were two different things. The hearing reconvened. Senator Mitchell looked tired. Ms. Kincaid, the committee has reviewed your evidence. We have serious concerns about how it was obtained, but we also have serious concerns about the allegations themselves. Emma's heart pounded. Therefore, we're going to recommend a full investigation by the Department of Justice. We're issuing subpoenas for all relevant financial records, communications, and documentation related to Triton Defense Corporation's contracts with the Department of Defense. Relief flooded through Emma. Furthermore, Admiral Carver will be placed on administrative leave pending the investigation. Colonel Ashford will be recalled to active duty status to face potential court-martial proceedings. Senator Curtis stood. Madam Chair, I object. We're ruining these men's careers based on illegally obtained evidence and the word of a civilian with an obvious grudge. Your objection is noted, Mitchell said coldly, but the evidence speaks for itself. Whether it was legally obtained or not, it raises questions that demand answers. And if these men are innocent, an investigation will clear them. Curtis sat down, but his expression said this wasn't over. Mitchell turned back to Emma. Ms. Kincaid, you've done a brave thing coming forward, but I need to warn you. The people you're accusing have powerful friends. They'll come after you. Your career, your reputation, your freedom. Are you prepared for that? Emma thought about her father, about Hayes, about every soldier who died because someone valued profit over duty. I'm prepared, Senator. Then this committee is adjourned. Outside the Capitol building, Emma stood in the winter sunlight. Morrison and the team surrounded her, a protective circle against the reporters who'd started to gather. Ms. Kincaid, is it true you broke into a private facility to obtain evidence? Ms. Kincaid, do you have any comment on the Admiral's statement? Ms. Kincaid, are you concerned about potential criminal charges? Emma ignored them all, kept walking until they reached Morrison's car. Inside, with the doors closed and the noise muffled, she finally let herself feel it. The weight of what she'd just done, the magnitude of the fight ahead. You okay? Patterson asked from the back seat. Ask me in a year, Emma said, when we see if any of this actually sticks. But even as she said it, she knew the truth. This was just the beginning. The network her father had discovered, the conspiracy that had killed him, it was bigger than Ashford and Carver, bigger than Triton Defense. And somewhere out there, the people who really ran it were watching, planning their next move. What happens when you corner a monster? The text came at 3 in the morning. Emma was already awake, couldn't sleep, hadn't slept properly since the hearing. Her mind kept cycling through scenarios, through possibilities, through the 1,000 ways this could go wrong. The text was from an unknown number. Commander Hayes didn't kill himself. Neither will you. Back off or everyone you care about pays the price. Emma stared at the screen, felt her pulse steady, felt clarity cut through the fog of exhaustion. They were scared. Good. Scared people make mistakes. She forwarded the text to Morrison, called him 30 seconds later. I saw it, he said. I'm already on my way to you. It's a threat, not an immediate danger. Don't care. Nobody on this team is alone until this is over. 20 minutes later, Morrison, Patterson, Crowley, and 2 other SEALs Emma had brought into the operation were at her apartment. Armed, alert, looking like they were ready for war. This changes things, Crowley said. They're not trying to discredit you anymore. They're trying to scare you into stopping. Which means the investigation is working, Patterson added. They wouldn't threaten you if they weren't worried. Emma pulled up her laptop, showed them the latest update from Senator Mitchell's office. The Department of Justice had executed search warrants on Triton Defense Corporation's offices, seized financial records, frozen offshore accounts. 3 executives had already been arrested. Colonel Ashford had gone into hiding. And Admiral Carver had hired one of the most expensive defense attorneys in Washington. The walls are closing in on them, Emma said, but cornered animals are the most dangerous. Her phone rang, Mitchell's direct number. Senator. Emma, we've had a development. Ashford has agreed to cooperate. He's willing to testify against the Admiral and provide evidence of Senator Marshall's involvement in exchange for immunity. Emma's breath caught. He's flipping. Completely. His attorney reached out this morning, said Ashford is terrified, claims he was following orders, that the conspiracy goes higher than we thought. How much higher? Mitchell paused. He's naming names, Pentagon officials, defense contractors, politicians. Emma, this is bigger than we imagined. We're talking about a network that's been operating for over 20 years. Emma felt dizzy. 20 years. How many soldiers had died because of this? How many weapons had ended up in enemy hands? How much blood was on the hands of people who were supposed to be protecting them? What do you need from me? She asked. Right now, stay safe. Ashford's testimony will take weeks to process. We need him alive to testify, and we need you alive to corroborate his statements. You think they'll come after us? I think they've already started. The DOJ received intelligence this morning about a potential threat to the investigation. We're providing security for Ashford. I'd like to provide the same for you. Emma looked at Morrison and the team. I've got security, Senator. With all due respect to your friends, these are professional killers we're talking about. People with the resources to make problems disappear. Then they're about to learn what happens when they try to make a problem disappear. Who knows how to fight back? Mitchell sighed. Emma, I admire your courage, but pride is not a bulletproof vest. Neither is hiding. I appreciate the offer, Senator, but I'm not going into protective custody. I'm not stopping my life because some criminals are scared of the truth. Then at least be careful. Check your surroundings. Vary your routine. Trust no one you don't absolutely have to. After the call ended, Morrison spoke up. She's right, you know. You should take the protection. And let them win. Let them push me into hiding while they regroup and find new ways to bury this. This isn't about winning or losing. It's about surviving long enough to see justice done. Emma stood, paced to the window, looked out at the Washington streets below. My father didn't hide. Hayes didn't hide. They stood up. They fought. And yeah, they died for it. But if I hide now, if I let fear dictate my actions, then their deaths meant nothing. Their deaths meant everything, Morrison said quietly. That's why we owe it to them to stay alive, to finish this. Emma turned, saw the concern on his face, the fear, not for himself but for her. These men had become more than a team. They'd become brothers, family, the kind of people who'd walk into hell if she asked them to. Okay, she said. We increase security. We vary routines. We watch our backs, but we don't hide. We keep pushing, keep fighting, until every single person in that network is exposed. Agreed, Patterson said. The others nodded. Now, Emma continued, Ashford's cooperation is good, but we can't rely on just his testimony. We need to keep building the case independently, keep gathering evidence. She pulled up a list on her laptop. These are the 18 names Ashford mentioned in his preliminary statement to the DOJ. Some are confirmed network members. Others are suspected. We need to verify each one, build individual cases against them. That's going to take months, Crowley said. I know, but it's the only way to make sure none of them slip through the cracks. Her phone buzzed again, another text. This one had a photo attached. Emma opened it, and her blood ran cold. It was a photograph of her mother, standing outside a grocery store in Montana, a red circle drawn around her head. No words, just the image. The message was clear. Morrison saw her face. What is it? Emma showed him. Son of a bitch, he breathed. They're going after your family. Emma's hands shook, not with fear, with rage. Her mother had nothing to do with this, was a civilian, a teacher, someone who'd already lost her husband to this conspiracy. And now they were threatening her. Patterson, Emma said, her voice cold. How fast can you get to Montana? 6 hours, why? Because you're going to be my mother's new shadow, 24/7. Nobody gets near her without going through you first. On it. Emma called her mother. 3 rings, 4, finally her voice. Emma, honey, is everything okay? Mom, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Don't ask questions, just listen. She could hear the fear creep into her mother's voice. What's wrong? I'm sending someone to stay with you for a while. His name is Tyler Patterson. He's a friend. He's going to make sure you're safe. Safe from what? Mom. Emma, don't lie to me. What's happening? Emma closed her eyes. The investigation into Dad's death. It's bigger than I thought, and some people aren't happy about it. Silence. Then quietly, are you in danger? I'm fine, but I need to know you're protected. Your father wouldn't want you risking your life for this. Dad died trying to expose these people. I'm just finishing what he started. Another pause. He'd be proud of you, terrified but proud. Will you let Patterson stay with you? Do I have a choice? Not really. Her mother sighed. Then I suppose I'd better make up the guest room. After the call, Emma sat down, felt the weight of it all pressing on her. She'd started this to honor her father's memory, to find justice for his death, but now it was expanding, becoming something bigger than she'd imagined. A fight not just for her father, but for every soldier who'd been betrayed, every family who'd lost someone to weapons that should never have been in enemy hands. We need to accelerate the timeline, she said. If they're threatening families, they're desperate. We need to hit them before they can hurt anyone else. How? Morrison asked. Emma pulled up another file, one she'd been saving. Senator Marshall. Ashford named him as a key player, said he received payments in exchange for blocking oversight legislation. If we can get Marshall on record, get him to flip like Ashford, the whole thing collapses. He's a sitting senator, Crowley said. You can't just walk up and interrogate him. No, but we can provide evidence to the ethics committee, force them to investigate, put pressure on him until he has to respond. Morrison nodded slowly. It's risky. Senators have protections, immunities. Not from corruption charges. Emma compiled the evidence. Financial records showing payments from Triton Defense to Marshall's campaign. Communications between Marshall and Ashford coordinating legislative actions. Phone records showing calls to the Admiral's office. She sent it all to the Senate Ethics Committee with a detailed report. Then she waited. 3 days later, the news broke. Senator David Marshall was under investigation for ethics violations and potential corruption. The Senate had opened a preliminary inquiry. Marshall had issued a statement denying all wrongdoing. But Emma could read between the lines. He was scared. Good. Another domino falling. That night, Emma received a call from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Miss Kincaid, a male voice, older, refined. Who is this? My name is Richard Hayes. Marcus Hayes was my brother. Emma's breath caught. I'm sorry for your loss, Mr. Hayes. I know what you're doing. The investigation, the testimonies. Marcus would have been proud. Thank you. I called because I have something Marcus left with me before he died. He said if anything happened to him, I should give it to you. Emma's pulse quickened. What is it? A hard drive, encrypted. Marcus said it contained backup copies of everything he'd found, evidence he'd hidden in case the primary files were destroyed. Mr. Hayes, I need that drive. I know, but there's a problem. I'm being watched. Have been since the news about the investigation broke. I think they know I have something. Emma thought fast. Where are you located? Baltimore. Can you get to D.C., to the federal building? I think so. Why? Because that's federal property. They can't touch you there without making it obvious. Meet me there tomorrow at noon. I'll have security with me. Okay, tomorrow noon. The call ended. Emma looked at Morrison. Hayes had a brother. He has a backup drive with all of Marcus's evidence. That's huge. That could be the smoking gun we need. I know, but he's being watched. We need to get him to safety. The next day, Emma and Morrison waited outside the federal building. Crowley and another SEAL were positioned on rooftops nearby. Patterson was still in Montana with Emma's mother. Noon came and went. No Richard Hayes. 12:15. 12:30. Emma's phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Hayes. Ms. Kincaid. The voice was different, cold. Richard Hayes won't be making your meeting. He had an unfortunate accident this morning. Car crash, very tragic. Emma's blood turned to ice. Who is this? Consider this your final warning. Drop the investigation, destroy the evidence. Disappear, or everyone you love dies, your mother, your team, everyone. The line went dead. Emma stared at her phone. Felt rage, and grief and determination war inside her. They'd killed Richard Hayes, killed him to prevent him from sharing his brother's evidence, killed him to send a message. But the message they sent wasn't the one they intended. They'd shown their hand, proven they were scared enough to murder civilians, desperate enough to make mistakes. Emma, Morrison said gently, I'm sorry. She looked at him. They just made a fatal error. What do you mean? They killed a civilian, in broad daylight, to stop evidence from reaching us. That's not careful, that's panic, and panicked people make mistakes. She pulled out her phone, called Senator Mitchell. Senator, Richard Hayes was murdered this morning. Marcus Hayes's brother. He was coming to give me evidence and they killed him to stop it. Mitchell swore, are you sure? I received a call threatening me right after he was supposed to meet me. It's connected. I'm bringing in the FBI. This is beyond Senate oversight now. This is active homicide. Good, use it, push harder, they're making mistakes. They're exposed. After the call, Morrison put a hand on her shoulder. You okay? No, but I will be, when this is over, when every single person responsible is in prison. She looked out at the Washington skyline. Thought about her father, about Hayes, about Richard Hayes. About all the people who died, because the truth was dangerous. They think they can scare me into stopping, she said quietly, but they just gave me another reason to never quit. Morrison nodded. Then let's finish this. How do you prove someone's guilt when they've spent decades learning how to hide it? The FBI raid on Admiral Carver's residence made national news. Agents in tactical gear. Search warrants. The Admiral being led out in handcuffs while cameras captured every moment. Emma watched it from the safe house, felt satisfaction mixed with something else, something that felt like vindication but tasted like ash. Because even with Carver arrested, even with Ashford cooperating, even with the investigation expanding to encompass 18 different targets, the cost kept mounting. 3 more witnesses had died in the past 2 weeks. Car accidents, suicides, 1 heart attack that was almost certainly poisoning. The network was fighting back with everything it had. We're getting close, Morrison said, watching the news coverage with her. They're desperate, you can see it. Emma nodded. Carver's arrest was significant. A sitting admiral charged with conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and accessory to murder. It sent shockwaves through the Pentagon, made everyone who'd ever looked the other way, who'd ever taken a bribe, who'd ever signed off on something they knew was wrong. It made them all panic. And panic led to mistakes. The admiral's attorney held a press conference that afternoon, announced Carver would be fighting the charges, called the investigation a politically motivated attack on a decorated war hero. But Emma could see the fear in Carver's eyes in the photographs, could see the way his hands shook, could see the truth behind the carefully crafted denials. He was guilty, and he knew it. Senator Marshall was next. The Ethics Committee investigation had expanded into a full Senate inquiry. Financial records showed millions of dollars flowing from defense contractors into Marshall's campaign coffers, into his personal accounts, into offshore holdings. Marshall resigned 3 days after Carver's arrest. Claimed he was stepping down for health reasons. Said the allegations were false, but that he didn't want to distract from the important work of the Senate. Nobody believed him. Emma received another call from Senator Mitchell. "We've got him. Marshall's agreed to testify in exchange for reduced charges. He's giving us everything. Names, dates, payment schedules, the entire network." "How many people are we talking about?" Mitchell's voice was grim. 47 confirmed participants, possibly more. This thing goes back 25 years, Emma. Quarter century of corruption, weapons sales, murder. Emma felt sick. 25 years. Her father had barely scratched the surface. What happens now? Now we build cases against each one. Systematically, carefully. We can't afford any mistakes. These people have the best attorneys money can buy. They'll fight every charge. I understand. Emma, I need you to testify again. Full depositions for the DOJ. Everything you know, everything your father documented, everything Hayes shared with you. When? Tomorrow, can you do that? Emma looked at Morrison, at the team that had become her family, at the evidence covering the walls of the safe house. I'll be there. The deposition took 6 hours. Emma sitting across from federal prosecutors, walking through every piece of evidence, every connection, every detail of her father's investigation. They asked about the warehouse break-in. She invoked her Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. They asked about the source of some documents. She declined to answer. They asked if she'd worked with anyone else in gathering evidence. She protected her team. The prosecutors weren't happy, but they had enough without her confession, enough to build cases, enough to prosecute. Ms. Kincaid, the lead prosecutor said at the end, what you've done here, the evidence you've provided, it's going to result in the largest corruption case in military history. Dozens of people are going to prison because of you. Not because of me, Emma corrected. Because of what they did, I just made sure the truth came out. She left the deposition and went straight to Arlington National Cemetery, to her father's grave. It was a cold day, winter settling over Washington, the cemetery quiet except for the wind through the trees. Emma stood in front of the marker. Captain Jackson Ghost Kincaid, Navy SEAL, father, hero. I did it, Dad, she said quietly. I exposed them, all of them. It's going to take years for the trials to finish, but they'll pay, every single one. The wind carried her words away. She thought about the last conversation she'd had with her father, 3 days before he deployed to Syria, before the mission that would end his life. He'd told her about duty, about sacrifice, about how some fights are worth the cost. The only medal that matters is getting your brothers home alive, he'd said. He hadn't made it home, but he'd made sure she had the tools to finish what he started. Footsteps behind her, Morrison approaching. They're ready for us, he said. Ready for what? Senator Mitchell wants to do a press conference, make a formal statement about the investigation. She wants you there. Emma looked at her father's grave one more time, then turned and followed Morrison to the car. The press conference was held on the Capitol steps, Mitchell at a podium, Emma standing behind her with Morrison and the team, camera flashes, reporters shouting questions. Mitchell raised a hand for silence. Today, I'm announcing the results of a 2-month investigation into corruption within the defense industry and the United States military. This investigation has resulted in federal charges against 47 individuals, including senior military officers, defense contractors, and elected officials. The crowd erupted. Mitchell continued over the noise. These individuals participated in a criminal conspiracy that resulted in the illegal sale of weapons to enemy combatants. American weapons ended up in the hands of those fighting American soldiers, and when people tried to expose this conspiracy, they were murdered. She gestured to Emma. This investigation exists because of the courage of one woman, Emma Kincaid, daughter of Navy SEAL Captain Jackson Kincaid, who died trying to expose this conspiracy 10 years ago. Emma refused to let her father's death be in vain. She gathered evidence, built cases, risked everything to bring these criminals to justice. Emma felt uncomfortable with the attention. This wasn't about her. It was about her father, about Hayes, about every soldier who died because of the weapons that should never have reached the battlefield. We owe Ms. Kincaid a debt of gratitude, Mitchell continued, and we owe it to every service member to ensure this never happens again. Questions erupted. Senator, how high does this go? Will there be military trials? What about Senator Marshall? Mitchell answered them all, patient, thorough, making sure the truth was on record. Afterward, Emma stood at the edge of the crowd, watching, thinking. Morrison approached. How does it feel? He asked. Like it's not over. The investigation is. The prosecutions will take time, but the hard part is done. Emma shook her head. The network Ashford described, the one that's been operating for 25 years, it can't just be these 47 people. There are others, hiding, waiting, planning their next move. Then we'll find them too. Emma looked at him, saw determination in his eyes, loyalty, the same qualities her father had valued. Thank you, she said, for everything, for believing me, for having my back. That's what brothers do. They stood together in the Washington afternoon, the Capitol dome rising behind them, symbol of democracy, symbol of justice, symbol of a system that could be corrupted but also corrected. Emma's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You think you've won, you haven't, we'll rebuild, we always do. She showed it to Morrison. They're not giving up. Neither are we. Emma deleted the message. Let them threaten, let them plan, let them try. She'd spent 10 years preparing for this fight, had learned from the best, had a team that wouldn't quit. And most importantly, she had something they didn't. She had the truth. And in the end, the truth always wins. Even when it costs everything. 6 months later, the trials began. Admiral Carver was first, charged with conspiracy, obstruction, accessory to murder. The evidence was overwhelming: financial records, communications, testimony from Ashford and Marshall. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. 40 years in federal prison. Emma sat in the gallery and watched as they led him away, felt something settle in her chest, not satisfaction exactly, but closure. Colonel Ashford testified against the others in exchange for his immunity deal, named names, provided evidence, helped dismantle the entire network piece by piece. By the end of the year, 32 people had been convicted. 10 more had fled the country. 5 had died before trial, some from natural causes, some from what appeared to be suicide but probably wasn't. And Emma's testimony had been central to every case. She became known as the woman who took down the biggest corruption network in military history. People wrote articles about her, made her a symbol. But she didn't feel like a symbol. She felt like her father's daughter, finishing what he started. One afternoon, she received a call from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Ms. Kincaid." "Yes." "My name is David Chen." Emma frowned. The name was familiar. "My father was Sergeant David Chen. He served with your father in Ramadi. Captain Kincaid saved his life." Emma remembered. The young Marine who'd approached her outside the capital, whose father had died but lived long enough to see her testimony. "I remember," she said. "How can I help you?" I wanted you to know. My father talked about Captain Kincaid all the time, said he was the finest man he'd ever served with, and when you exposed what really happened when you brought those people to justice." His voice caught. It meant everything. To know his sacrifice wasn't in vain, to know someone cared enough to fight for the truth. Emma felt tears sting her eyes. "Your father was a good man. I'm sorry he's gone." "So am I, but he got to see justice done. That's more than most people get." After the call ended, Emma sat in silence. Thought about all the people who'd died, all the families who'd lost someone, all the pain the conspiracy had caused. And she thought about the truth. How it's always worth fighting for, even when the cost is high, even when the road is long, even when it seems impossible. Her father had taught her that, and she'd proven it was true. She picked up her phone, called Morrison. "I've been offered a position," she said when he answered. "Pentagon Defense Intelligence. They want me to set up a task force to hunt corruption in the defense industry." "That's huge. You going to take it?" "Only if you come with me. You, Patterson, Crowley, everyone. I need people I trust." Morrison was quiet for a moment. "Your father asked me the same thing once, 2003, before Iraq, said he needed operators he could trust with his life." "What did you say?" "I said yes then. I'm saying yes now." Emma smiled. "Good, because there are 18 more names on my list. Network members we haven't identified yet. And I'm not stopping until every single one of them pays." "Then let's get to work." Emma looked out her window at the Washington skyline, at the city where her father had fought and died, at the city where she'd carried on his fight. The war wasn't over, but this battle was won. And there were more battles ahead. She thought of her father one last time, standing at that shooting range in Montana, teaching her to find the space between heartbeats, to make the impossible shot, to never quit. "I'm still fighting, Dad," she whispered, "and I won't stop until every one of them pays." Behind her, the sun set over Washington, golden light washing over the monuments and memorials, over the Capitol where she'd testified, over Arlington where her father rested. And Emma Kincaid, Ghost's daughter, warrior in her own right, turned from the window and walked into the gathering darkness, ready for whatever came next. Because sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts. And when it does, when it moves with purpose and conviction and unshakable resolve, when it refuses to be silenced or intimidated or broken, when it stands up in the face of corruption and power and says, "No more." That's when the impossible becomes inevitable. That's when justice stops being an ideal and becomes a reality. That's when one woman with the courage to fight can change everything. Not because she was special, but because she refused to accept that the truth didn't matter. Refused to believe that power always wins. Refused to let her father's sacrifice be forgotten. And in that refusal, in that unwavering determination to do what was right no matter the cost, she proved something that needed proving. That honor still matters. That duty still means something. That one person standing up for the truth can move mountains. Her father had taught her how to shoot, but he'd taught her something more important. He'd taught her how to fight, not with weapons or violence or force, but with courage. with integrity, with the unbreakable belief that some things are worth any price. And she'd proven she could win. Not just for him, for everyone, for every soldier who'd ever trusted their leaders to do right by them, for every family who'd ever lost someone to corruption disguised as duty, for every person who'd ever believed that the system was broken and couldn't be fixed. She'd proven them wrong. And in doing so, she'd honored her father's memory in the only way that mattered. By finishing what he started. By making sure his death meant something. By ensuring that the truth, no matter how buried, no matter how protected, no matter how dangerous, always find a way to surface. Always find someone willing to fight for it. Always wins. Even when it costs everything. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts.